TP. Well, hello. How are you? Away we go. Let's look at the stream. How are you? It went dark. And then it went bright. And then it went dark. And then it went bright. Well, away we go. Uh, where's LALATE? Can you hear LALATE? Can you not hear him? I don't see him. I don't hear him. I'm deaf, dumb, blind, says someone. There I am. So now I can see me. So I assume you can see me as well. How are you? Say hi. That's the best. There you are. There he is. Hi. I was at the casino, taking a lunch break during the middle of the video. So, there was $12 ice cream on sale. I couldn't pass up the $12 ice cream. So I just took a break during the middle of going live. I just ran out to the casino, got that ice cream. There's Jenny with the dancing, with the dime 11. Sirloin came in and said, move out of the way. I actually have a graphic that says move out of the way. And I just, Sirloin, came in and started grazing on the set and ate all the cables during that little deluge there. And, the part of the video that you missed was where Biden actually signed an executive order like 10 minutes ago. You're getting a stimulus check starting tomorrow. It signed an executive order yesterday. So you missed that really good part of that video. Sorry you missed it. Maybe I'll recap it sometime. No, just kidding. Can you please update what I missed? You missed everything. No. It was very funny because, I was watching. I was like, oh, there's no me. And then they're like, there's no me, there's no you, there's no sound, and there's no stimulus. It's just sort of, but there always is $12 ice cream. So blame it on Sirloin. Let me go over the data. What caused the data? What caused the outage was this. The Votorama actually caused the outage. As soon as I touched this graphic, for some reason, I lost you all. And I'm not quite sure why, but I did get an alert that on the screen that says, I'm losing you. The recon path did not go well with the live stream. As soon as I was about to tell you about the recon path, I lost you. Let me go back to where I lost you in totality. Let's start back at this point, which is very important. Who gets the $1,400 stimulus check? Is around this point that I started losing some of the feed. If you got the third stimulus check, you get the fourth stimulus check. If you make $75,000 or less, you get a fourth stimulus check. If the household is 4 or less, you get a stimulus check. If you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, or railroad benefits, you get this fourth stimulus check. Remember, one viewer asked me a great question yesterday. Is stimulus checks income? No. So do not worry when we look at this graphic about how much money this fourth stimulus and these reoccurring stimulus checks are. It is not income. It is not income, and it's not taxable. So then the next issue I was going over that you lost during the outage was, what about the speed issue? The big speed issue at hand is getting this bill to the Senate as soon as possible. First, every month that the bill's not in the Senate, you lose a stimulus check. I mean, that's sort of obvious. That's Captain Obvious. That's Sirloin and Captain Obvious walking through the Senate and kicking out the power cord. The second one is economic rebound. You don't want the economy to rebound sooner rather than later and not have this bill to law. This is why it's confusing. As you and I know, ultimately, this economy is very hard to predict. You don't want to risk it. Let's look back at the numbers that we started the broadcast with. New unemployment claims at 744,000 this week. Horrible, horrible. Up 50,000, higher, 50,000 higher than what Wall Street estimated, higher than the week before. These are really bad numbers. So we have that side of the economy where the numbers are horrible. But on Friday, the job claim numbers were great. So it's all over the place. And then certainly yesterday, Jamie Dimon, head of JP Morgan Chase, who a lot of people respect his opinion, ultimately it's just an opinion, says that we're in a booming economy. All this week, the FANG stocks started booming. So it's very hard to gauge where this economy is. Bottom line is, translation, you want to get this bill to the Senate before an economic rebound occurs. And finally, you don't want those job numbers to be restored. We have 8 million jobs missing, and ultimately, if it takes 8 months to restore them, you're fine. But if it takes 4 months to restore them, you are in a tight bind, because 4 months away from now, It's an issue. Let's look at the recon path, the reconciliation path. It's a 2-month path at least. I'll be going over it late in this recording, but it's at least 2 months for a reconciliation process. You just went through it with me. You saw how long it took. It started in January. It wasn't done till March. It takes 2 months when they move quickly. So far, they're not moving quickly, and we're going to go over that in a second. The vote-a-rama is where they would modify the bill when the bill lands in the Senate, and so far, 21 of 50 Democrats want to modify the bill. So as you see here, the economic data is clearly on point. You see that today's unemployment numbers, bad. Friday's job numbers, really high, really good. Don't want to risk it. It's too hard to predict this economy. Where's it going? How's it going? And there's just stuff all over the place. California 2 days ago announced that it's reopening the state in June. If you're reopening the state, imagine the jobs that are generated. Guess what happened just 5 minutes before I went live and 10 minutes before I kicked the power on this video? Governor DeSantis of Florida sued Dr. Walensky, head of the CDC, claiming that her policies about the travel industry, specifically the yachting and the tour industry, the carnival, the people who go on boats, is arbitrary and capricious, and says that those boats should be able to start to take off from Florida docks, points of sale, and that they have been forced, Carnival and all these massive cruise industry leaders, to travel to dock in foreign port of calls. He's gone to court to invalidate the CDC order preventing them from docking in U.S. ports. Wow, this is getting to become very big and very entangled, to which you and I know the importance of getting this bill to the Senate. So let's go over how this bill operates, how it will work, how this goes through, so that you're informed and educated and you know how and where to push. It goes in a 2-step process. So the first step is the tow truck. The tow truck is a bill that starts in the House, goes to the Senate, and goes to the President, at which the Democrats agree that they're going to do this forced stimulus by reconciliation. Now, you have heard me say they can. That's different than saying they will. They have to agree that they will. So they have to just do a bill to agree that they're going to do it by recon. That's the tow truck. That's step one. If you were with me in January, you saw that was the first thing they did. The next thing that they have to do is, after they agree upon that and that's signed into law, then they go back, and Nancy with her subcommittees in the House, remember Representative Neal? Remember, if you remember this channel, you saw what Representative Neal was modifying the bill in February. Yeah, that's step 2. That's where he would take the forced stimulus package, make modifications in subcommittees, like the Ways and Means Committee. Yeah, that same thing again, and then send it back to the Senate. To which viewers may ask me, is the president going to put multiple stimulus checks in there? No. Is the House? They could. They absolutely could. So who's going to put the multiple stimulus checks in there? The Senate. Here's what you need to know. In a 2-day event called a vote-a-rama in the Senate, during the second round, when the tow hitch gets the Senate on the second round, during that 2-day process, Democratic senators are offered the opportunity, and of course Republicans as well, to introduce amendments to the bill. And that's where those 21 of 50 Democrats are going to put in their monthly stimulus checks. And that's what they did last time. Last time, the big items of the third stimulus package that got amended happened during the vote-a-rama. Let's recap. The $10,200, which is tax-free for unemployment, that came during the vote-a-rama. The student loan debt forgiveness, that is now tax-free if it's passed by executive order, that was done by the vote-a-rama. It's literally 48 hours of chaos. I did not have this live platform then. And imagine if they do it again, you and I, when I'm live, Lord, it is literally 48 hours of nonstop chaos. And there's amendment after amendment until they get it done. So now let's go back to the calculation and the moolah of the forced stimulus. This is what the Democrats want to do. They want to do monthly, from when the bill becomes law to the end of the year. These are the Democratic senators. Now, I know there's other people that have proposed other ideas that go out, 2 years, but I'm talking about the Democratic senators, 21 of 50. They want the same income qualification, you just saw that, as the third stimulus package. But the only thing they don't give us is the amount of the monthly check. Well, insiders, word on the street, either $1,400 a month or $2,000 a month. So let's go back to that graphic, which I said I would go back to, which goes over the calculation of how much money this would be. There we are. So if they got this bill to law in June and got the checks out the door starting July, let's use two different benchmarks. Let's use an example of $1,400 a check per month. Well, over 6 months, July to December, for one individual, one person, that would be $1,400 a month, 6 months, $8,400. If it was July to December, $2,000 a month, that would be $12,000 per person. Now remember, our income qualifications, we did earlier in this video. If there's a household, four-person household at $2,000 a month, for example, that's $8,000 per month for the household. That's how it works. If it sounds like a lot of money, it's not, based upon what the president also wants to do. The president has reportedly wanted to consider paying $65,000 a child. What? Yes. He wants to pay $300 a child starting at newborn all the way up to age 17, so they go out of poverty. That amounts to $65,000 over 18 years. Well, when we're talking about $8,000, it's chicken feed compared to $65,000. It's very small. So that's why this seems like a likely path. It's important next to understand how quickly they can get this done, and also how important it is for you to stay with me and attend to the money that's available for you now as to what's available in the next few weeks. Let's look at the graphic. We just got third stimulus checks landing in bank accounts, and I'll be going over those missing checks if you have a missing check in just a second. Throughout April, this is where you want to get that big other money for third stimulus. Let's go over each of them one at a time. There is rent, utilities, mortgage assistance, property owner assistance, property owner utilities. And then we have SNAP, which doesn't expire anytime soon, but the 15% increase of SNAP expires in late December. That's the money you want to get right now. Also, items that apply for some other. Before I go to the other items, those items apply to every one of you who watches this channel who makes less than $75,000 a year. So you can get rent, utilities, food, internet, and homeowners assistance if you make that money or less per year. Where is it? State, county, and city. The money was staying out from the government under the third stimulus package to state, county, and city. If you need help getting it, reach out to the volunteers. Ultimately, I can't delineate each city, county, and state. What I can say is the federal guidelines, which I go over with you about this rent utilities, can be done more stringent or more relaxed on the local level. Then going live next on the third stimulus is, of course, all the business items. The business grant for PPP is now live. The EIDL grant about to go live. The shuttered venue grant, which is not just for venues, now about to go live. It's in preview mode. Go to sba.gov to apply for that. And then the restaurant grant about to go live. And then you see how June is just around the corner. For July, we're not even yet to the money for the children, which kicks in the month of July. So you want to see how lean it starts to look around June and July. You don't want to get in that bind of where things are lean. Meantime, the press secretary yesterday spoke about third stimulus checks, the third one, and how they landed yesterday. If you listen in with this recording for me, she does not say that this is the final round of third stimulus checks. So the good news is that if you're missing a stimulus check, it could still be coming. Let's listen in to see what she first said about the jobs bill, which is the fourth stimulus, and then hear what she said about next the the third stimulus check that landed, especially for people on SSI and SSDI.
And all of the investments the survey looked at, from roads and bridges to housing, clean energy, and manufacturing, have the support of over 60% of voters and a majority of independents. The evidence is unanimous that the American people support the president's vision of rebuilding our economy and his plan to pay for it by asking big corporations to pay their fair share. A Morning Consult poll just last week showed that 2-to-1 registered voters back a hypothetical $3 trillion infrastructure package. And earlier data for Progress poll showed that by a 35% margin, voters want to pay for this plan by asking the wealthy and big corporations to pay their fair share. Another update, today we can proudly say that in addition to the 150 million shots in arms, we have successfully sent over 150 million relief checks to the American people. The fourth batch of the economic impact payments from the American Rescue Plan totals more than 25 million payments, which brings the total dispersed so far to more than 156 million payments, totaling $372 billion since the plan was signed into law less than a month ago. The largest block of these latest payments went to Social Security beneficiaries who didn't file a 2020 or 2019 tax return and didn't use the non-filers tool last year, which is consistent with our view that it would be more challenging. The easiest would be those who had information that the IRS had, and it would become more challenging. So this is a more challenging group, but this is certainly good news. Within 2 weeks of the American Rescue Plan becoming law, the IRS and Treasury had started dispersing 170 million payments at a similar point during the first.
And there you go. Great super chat question by Laura Drysdale minutes ago. Will you still get a child tax credit payment in July if your child turned 18 this year? I have two 17-year-olds turning 18 in October this year. We don't. I have to look at the bill because of the law. It's a little bit hard to tell, but it looks like you would not get it for the full duration. The concept here's the concept of the child tax credit. The child tax credit is an advance for next year. So next year they're clearly outside the age bracket, and what the child tax credit is doing is getting an advance for what's happening next year. By its own nuance, it looks like they may not qualify, but we need to watch that across the board. I'll pull the bill and see if I can find the answer to that specifically. Also, let me welcome Paulina for becoming a member, and Grammy as well. And thank you for the super chat from Elaine Nart. I think there was someone else that dropped a super chat. Sorry if I missed it. I'll try to grab it in just a second. Meantime, on the move, as Sirloin would say, this today is Apple, Twitter, and also the parent company of Constellation Brands. Apple was up 1% in the pre-market today on news about productions of MacBooks and Apple iPads. Twitter has been in talks to buy Clubhouse for $4 billion, but then those talks have stalled for reasons we don't know. Twitter was up 1% in the pre-market, and Constellation, which is the parent company of Corona Beer, says they are doing very well with their numbers. Also making news today, of course, is Costco, which showed a 57% increase in its year-to-year sales. What's important to understand is that the numbers, when you're looking at unemployment, whether it is state by state or continuing claims, are not particularly good. And that's big push for stimulus. But ultimately, you want those multiple stimulus checks to land in the Senate as soon as possible, because there may be an economic rebound. It's been very hard to determine where this economy is going. And even in light of what Governor DeSantis did just minutes ago, if you're just joining me, he sued the CDC chairwoman to get the ability for the cruise industry to dock and launch cruises again out of Florida. They currently cannot. All this week, FANG stocks have been on fire: Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, because of the belief by Jamie Dimon and others that the economy is rebounding. But yesterday, the President of the United States spoke to the American people about the fourth stimulus package. I'll be showing you that video in just a second. But this is what you need to know if you're just joining me on a supercharged, larger than usual noontime broadcast. Usually the noontime broadcast is 2 shows of 30 minutes, but because there's so many people in the room, I may just continue rather than split it up into 2 shows. So if you want me to continue, drop in the comments right now, continue. First, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. I don't want you to miss a single day video across the board. And yes, I will be continuing with you at Afternoons LA. Also, like this video. Let's try to do 2,000 to 3,000 likes. If you've not become a member, consider becoming a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP. The breaking news, if you're just joining me right now, is that forced stimulus is really heating up. You're seeing in this video alone, yesterday the president had not 1, not 2, but 3 live broadcasts about the forced stimulus package. The president, then his press secretary, and then his commerce secretary, whose videos are coming up, all spoke about the need to get this done. But this is what the president also said, which you need to understand. He talked about Republicans. He talked about bipartisanship. He talked about talking about this for the next 2 weeks. I see your great comments about continuing, so I will continue. The president is concerned that he does not look like he's trying to be bipartisan on the issue. But here's what you need to take away. Obviously, this channel always prefers anything bipartisan. But in this case, the Republicans have already said they're not going to give you a stimulus check. And you want a stimulus check, and I want you to have a stimulus check, and you deserve a stimulus check. So ultimately, the only way to get a stimulus check is by reconciliation. And getting a reconciliation bill, as you saw earlier in this broadcast, takes at least 2 months to get it to the finish line. So the faster he gets the bill to the Senate, the faster the money is done. Here's what you need to know. The President of the United States, his Commerce Secretary, his Press Secretary, his cabinet members, your Democratic senators, and your Democratic House members need to hear from you. And over the last 24 hours, they said they want to hear from you. They want to hear your input about the forced stimulus package. Your input should be something along the lines of this. Hashtag MSC, hashtag Purple Power. We think that the bill should go by reconciliation. Don't delay. We need these stimulus checks to land as soon as possible. Don't delay and get the bill to the Senate as soon as possible. And then add anything else that you think that needs to be included in the message as well. Here's what you need to know is that on Friday and Monday, last Friday and Monday this week, the Republicans came out clear and said there's 2 items in the forced stimulus package that are non-starters. We won't do them at all. Number 1, climate. Number 2, tax raises. And guess what the president said in the briefing, which you're about to see it from yesterday on this channel? The president says we cannot do nothing. Well, the Republicans have already said we're not going to do climate and we're not going to do new taxes. So with that, there should not be a wait. The push should start right now. And let me give you that video right now. And thank you, Najee, for becoming a Purple Hawk. Let me jump into that video and show you how the president wants to think about considering modifications. But the Republicans have said they aren't doing climate. It's a non-starter. Let's listen into the president's message about the forced stimulus package.
I'm not trying to punish anybody, but damn it. Maybe it's because I come from a middle-class neighborhood. I'm sick and tired of ordinary people being fleeced.
And that was one of the rare occurrences that I've heard the president speak like that. Damn it. I'm tired and sick and tired of the middle class being fleeced. Let's listen in again.
Dollars of the debt, the Trump tax cut, $1.9 trillion in debt wasn't paid for. The vast majority of which went to the top 1% of the wage earners. I didn't hear anybody hollering in this recovery, the so-called before I became president, this K-shaped recovery, where billionaires made $300 billion more during this period. Where's the outrage there? I'm not trying to punish anybody, but damn it. Maybe it's because I come from a middle-class neighborhood. I'm sick and tired of ordinary people being fleeced.
Damn it. I'm sick and tired of ordinary people trying to be fleeced. Here's what the president's message goes a little bit off of kilter. Let me explain what's going on. The president spent the vast majority of this very long press conference, which you may have watched yesterday live with me on air on Mornings LA. He spent almost the first 10 minutes talking about the corporate tax rate. Big deal. Big deal. The Democratic counterproposal is 3% less. The president said, yeah, I'll do 3% less. Good. Do the bill. We're done. What are we arguing over? The president has proposed 28%. Joe Manchin says 25%. Done. It's 3%. What the hell? What the world is 3%? It's no big deal. It's not like the other counter proposals from the Democrats are 20% difference. It's 3%. Done. So you don't need to convince the other Democrats of what's in that provision. Second, the Democrats like the infrastructure and like the climate. Just other Democrats want to give you the stimulus checks, which the president has not considered yet in his proposal. Republicans on the other side don't like the taxes at all, 1%, don't like the climate at all. And that's where the frustration of the president's coming from, is during this entire 30-minute briefing, he never mentions the word climate. The frustration when he says, darn it, is coming because there's opposition to climate, not because there's opposition to infrastructure. If there's opposition to climate, do it by reconciliation. It's a no-brainer. Let me go over what happened with Chuck Schumer on Monday, because no matter how many times I think about it, thank you, David, for becoming a Purple Hawk. Welcome to the family. Everyone welcome David to the family to becoming a Purple Hawk. Let me explain what happened with Chuck Schumer on Monday, because this is a biggie. This is probably one of the biggest things you have ever heard on this channel. And it actually, I went live on air, and that live short broadcast that one night, it's still trending because it was such a big breaking development. Each congressional session, you have one reconciliation you can do. And there are 2 congressional sessions per year, one in the spring, one in the fall. Pretty easy. So this one they just did the reconciliation for, was not the spring one. They had a leftover one from last winter they saved because they knew Biden was coming in, and they used that for the third stimulus package. Okay, so you understand that so far. They have one extra left for the spring, and then they get a new one in the fall. All right. Well, what Chuck Schumer did, I told you last week, was quietly ask the Senate parliamentarian, who is not the Easter Bunny, as someone dropped in the comments, ask the Senate parliamentarian, can I use a freebie to go back and modify a prior reconciliation without using up one of my current reconciliation tickets? She said, yes, you don't have to use one of your tickets to go modify a prior reconciliation. Huge. So now let's look at the graphic. The third stimulus package was done by that 2020 recon that was left over from last year. Now he has a new spring 2020 recon he can use and a fall 2020 recon he can use. But now that Senate parliamentarian ruling gave him an extra amendment e-ticket, free ticket to go modify the bill again. Really shocking developments. Welcome David to the room. David Prisby, thank you for becoming a Purple Hawk. Welcome, David. If you've not become a Purple Hawk or Purple Power Calcino VIP, the link's at the top of the chat. Naji, thank you, Naji, for coming to Purple Hawk as well. It's a big day. Let me cut to something which is important for you to know, is what's between now and forced stimulus. Between now and forced stimulus is a series of items that could really impact your pocketbook. And those items start with the big news about student loan debt forgiveness. Student loan debt forgiveness got a major, shocking, developing detail Friday when the President of the United States agreed to have his education secretary prepare a deal memo over the next 2 weeks. He's been given 2 weeks to do it, to determine the legal validity to forgive $50,000 of student loan debt. Do I think it's going to happen? If Elizabeth Warren knows her stuff, which she usually does, it will. She says that Obama and Trump both forgave student loan debt, so hence Biden can as well. Whose student loan debt would be forgiven? Is it only up to a certain period of time? No. I have viewers who have student loan debts that are 40 years old and 20 years old. We don't know if it includes both private and public, but so far, this is huge, big news. And this is news you're going to hear in the next, now we're about 10 days away. Really big developing details. Meantime, let me show you what the Commerce Secretary said yesterday about your forced stimulus and how she wants to reach out to some Republicans. But ultimately, let's listen into her message.
Tomorrow. And the fact of the matter is, we know that lack of investment, particularly in public transportation, transit, water, housing has hurt low-income folks and people of color the most. And it's time to finally rectify that systemic inequality and build back better and more equally. As Jen said, my job as a Commerce Secretary is to do everything I can to enable American businesses of all sizes to compete. And at its core, the American Jobs Plan is about investing in American competitiveness, strengthening our workforce, rebuilding infrastructure, and leveling the playing field so all Americans have a shot at a good job. Now, prior to being Commerce Secretary, I was governor for 6 years. Prior to that, I was in the private sector. And so over the course of my career as an entrepreneur, as governor, now as Commerce Secretary, I have had many discussions with businesses, from the biggest to the smallest. And over the years, there is something that we all seem to agree on, which is that we need to make massive investments in our infrastructure if we are going to compete and ensure America's global competitiveness. And most recently, I have spent a lot of time in the past few weeks talking to business leaders.
More about her comments in a second. Some of the questions the viewers have been dropping during the video play there, and certainly drop your comments as well, is what you should think about if you haven't gotten your $1,400 third stimulus check. Let me go over the mail checks. Nearly 50% of the viewers of this channel may be getting their mail check, may be getting their $1,400 third stimulus check by mail. So you need to watch the mail. Those March 26 checks are very late. Some showed up yesterday. A lot showed up on Monday. They've been showing up all week. So watch the mail and add about 10 to 12 days to it. Those April 2nd to April 5th checks are late. So add about 10 days to those as well. And then the current wave of stimulus checks, the graphic says April 7th. It should be April 9th. Those are expected to land this week, but those could be upwards of 10 days late as well. If you have not gotten your stimulus check, what else should you know? First, wait. Direct deposits may be appearing late for reasons we don't know, and you may also be in a potential wave of stimulus checks next Wednesday. I've yet to get indication yet anywhere if there's another wave of stimulus checks coming next Wednesday. We originally told there was another wave, but I've yet to see that. But wait for that issue. Second, check the mail daily because your check may be coming by the mail. Third, if you are missing a first stimulus check, a second stimulus check, your third stimulus check, or any individual in your household, wait for guidance from Treasury, from IRS. Currently, the only advisory we have is that if you're missing a first or second stimulus check, file a tax return, the 2020, and request the missing stimulus check. Meantime, I'm going to go over that in 1 second on air with you because I want you to see that there may be other reasons you may need to file the tax return to fix things. And lastly, I've had some viewers actually get 2 checks for one person. What to do about those? I don't really know what to do about those. So let's wait for advisory about that. Let me explain some of the things you need to know about fixing. About 2 weeks ago, IRS said, don't fix things yet. Well, it's coming up on the point that you may have to fix things in a few days. These are the items that you may need to fix, and this is what you need to know. The way you fix things for purposes of getting money from Treasury is through tax returns. Your 2020 tax return would normally be due in April. It's now due in May. So get ready because sometime in the next few days, they're going to give advisory how to fix things. These are the things that you may need to fix. And this may apply to a lot of viewers. So listen in. 1, if you're missing that first stimulus check, the second stimulus check, the third stimulus check, or any member of your household, you're likely going to have to request it on a 2020 tax return. That might be the first thing you need to fix. The second thing you may need to fix is if you do not think that Treasury knows about your child, you'll need to fix that as well. Why? Because we're approaching that $3,600 for that child 6 and younger, or $3,000 for that child 17 to 6. And that starts in July. Remember, $300 a month or $250 a month? If you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, or Railroad benefits, and your child is not, and you don't file tax returns, they don't know you have a child. How are they going to know you have a child? Or if you just had a new child and you haven't filed a tax return, they don't know about the child. Or if you adopted a new child, they don't know about the child. Or if there's anything else that's happened, they may not know about the child. This is another thing you'll have to fix because it's big money. The other thing you may have to fix is who you are. I've had a lot of viewers say, I need to fix things about who I am. I don't want to be a dependent on someone else's tax return. I want the checks to go to me now on. I should have fixed this a long time ago, and I've been watching you, and I want to fix it. That will require you to file a tax return to show you are now you're filing your own tax return. You're not dependent. Then we also have the situation where people may have changed addresses, or the big one, which I've got a lot of questions about, is I want to update my direct deposit account for purposes of forced stimulus. All these things are fixed on a tax return. Suddenly you see in just, what was that, 2 minutes, 60 seconds, 90 seconds? I showed you almost 6 things you may have to fix. I don't know your situation, but you may have 4 or 5 items you got to fix. You don't want to file one tax return and then fix it and then file an amendment again and then an amendment after that. You want to do it one time. You want to file one tax return and do it one time. And so ultimately, make a little list on a piece of paper for yourself and write it down. Say, you know what? I got to fix these couple things because these items are money for me or my children or for me and my husband. I need to have these items fixed going forward to ensure I get this money. And that's how we did it back in 2020. If you remember back in 2020, I told you at the time, do the non-filer filing now. Well, the non-filer filing is not around anymore. The way you fix things so far is by a tax return. But don't do it yet. Just get ready to do it because Treasury has said they're going to give an advisory of how to fix all these items. And at that point, you need to be ready to push. Let's listen in a little bit more about what the Commerce Secretary said in that broadcast yesterday. And if you have questions right now, drop them in the comments and I'll read them while the Commerce Secretary is speaking about yesterday's forced stimulus discussion.
Leaders, and I can report to you that there's a broad level of enthusiasm for big investments in infrastructure. And I think there is a recognition that President Biden is doing the right thing in pushing us to conceive of infrastructure as broad, as including investments in STEM, research and development, investments in basic research, investments in broadband, investments in training our workforce. And the truth of it is, that's what it's going to take to compete. A key component of the American Jobs Plan is training our workforce. This is a reality.
RM just asked, how do we get mortgage assistance? That would be from your city, your county, and your state. They all may have slightly different eligibility for it. You need to reach out to each of them separately. And that money is under third stimulus. Great question. Keep the questions coming.
The changes in the American economy, many of which have been massively accelerated by COVID, are very scary for millions of Americans.
Welcome, CC, for becoming a Purple Hawk.
It's a scary place to be, to need a job and not have the skills to get a good job. And so that's why this package calls for big investments in training our workforce. Now, as Jen said, this was a priority of mine when I was governor.
Lorraine Plummet says, anything for SSDI? Yes. So under forced stimulus, you would qualify for these monthly stimulus checks if you're on SSDI. And then under third stimulus, you want to get that rent, that utilities, that food, which is SNAP from Department of Agriculture, and the free internet. The rent, utilities, you reach out to your state, your city, and your county. The utilities as well. SNAP is from the Department of Agriculture. And if you need help with the rent, with the internet, reach out to the volunteers on the community page.
And I saw it work. I know it works. We saw it work. When I ran for governor, my state, Rhode Island, if you haven't been, I want you to go.
Welcome, Katrina, to the family. Everyone welcome Katrina to Purple Hawk.
Had the highest unemployment rate in the country. #1 in America. It was sad, very sad. The unemployment rate in the building trades when I took over was over.
A great question from Leslie. Can you get business grants if you're currently unemployed. EIDL, yes. PPP, no, because the concept of PPP is that you're getting back to work. You have to spend the money on getting back to work. So PPP and unemployment, no.
20%. Think about what that does to a community. Before COVID, after a lot of our work,
A great question from Christina about the child tax credit. What year is it based upon? This is a really unclear situation at the moment, and we're going to have more clarity about that as we approach the end of the year. I think it's based upon their age at the time of April 2022, because it's an advance for next year's tax return. They're giving them money as an advance for next year's year, but we have to see how they enforce it in the next few weeks.
Rhode Island had more jobs than at any time in our state's history, because we leaned into it in a broad fashion, similar to what this package calls for: investments in infrastructure, working with business, and big investments in worker training. So the fact of the matter is, in order to compete, we have to have investments.
And there's Lisa says, I've not gotten the second or third stimulus check. What do I do? Well, Lisa, we certainly know for the second or first, you can file a 2020 tax return and request it, and it gets paid to you very quickly. For the third, we don't have the clarification about that yet, so we're going to watch for that across the board.
In apprenticeships, community colleges, STEM education, job training. My view is,
Christina, I feel as if stimulus is slowing down tax returns. Yes, Treasury has said they've been overwhelmed by doing all this at the same time.
if you have the guts in the middle of your
D. Smith, does this reoccurring stimulus checks cover SSA? Yes, it does.
career to go out and get some job training, to reach
Sarah Hewitt, if you're on SSI, does your child get the child tax credit? Yes, everyone gets that $3,600 or $3,000 for the child. The only thing that is the disqualifier is if you make more than the threshold of a stimulus check's income. If you make more than $75,000, you don't get the full child tax credit, and the phase out is at $100,000 individual income. Great question, Sarah.
train yourself to get a new job, then we need to be there for you to provide high quality, demand driven, affordable, if not free, job training. The American Jobs Plan.
Do you know the approximate date for the fourth stimulus, says Debbie? We don't. Leader Schumer and Speaker Pelosi have talked about July as the date at which they want it to become law. I think we're fine with July. I'm worried about August. I'm also worried about the summer recess of Congress. Of course, you've heard me talk about in this recording that I want this bill there as soon as possible. I would prefer to have it law in June rather than July. Now, ultimately, they can get to law in May, but I don't think May is a likely option at this point.
Also is about strengthening our supply chains, making things in America, making critical goods in America, creating good jobs in the process.
Sandra, when are people on Social Security going to get the $200 a month? Not anytime soon. No one's pushing for that. And ultimately, $12,000, $8,000 of monthly stimulus checks, Lisa, is a lot more money. Sandra, is a lot more money than $2,400.
And increasing the security that we have, knowing that we aren't overly dependent on other countries for critical supplies.
And there we are, as a big noontime recording. I think it's one of our longest ever. What a big day. I hope you've enjoyed this big broadcast. I have too. We're heading into afternoons LA. So this is clearly the end of noontime LA, but we're heading into afternoons LA. There was no doubleheader for mornings LA, so we missed a show there. And rather than go off and then on live, rather give you two shows of noontime, I gave you one monolith show right now. I hope you really enjoyed this. If you watch this tape later on, I really appreciate you dropping comments as well. I'll be back with you, yes, in about 15 minutes from now as Afternoons LA kicks up its feet. Thank you, Sharon, for the dancing pair. And if I missed any other dancing pairs, because I think I did, my apologies. And hopefully I gave a shout out to all the new members who joined during this chat, who early in the video were also Polina and Grammy and Laura. So thank you for all the new members. If you've not become a member, the link is at the top of the chat. Purple Power, Calcino VIP, or Purple Hawk. Stay informed, stay focused. Give this video a like. If you've been in here and forgot to like it, give it a big like. Let's get this video to #1. And thank you for joining me on a really fun midday recording. I'm back next with Afternoons LA. Stay informed, stay focused, and save LA for more.